All right, so we are live. Let's see some hi, hello from students. Usually there's a delay when it comes to these sessions. Wonderful. Okay, while we hear from the viewers, those who are watching live, welcome. Some of you might be watching it later. So hi, good evening, Amit, Preet. Good evening. So, my name is Jijo. I have with me Siddharth. Now, Siddharth is XLRI business management pass out from. He did his MBA from XLRI from 2006 to 2008. So, you took the ZAT in 2006, which probably would be one of those crazy ZATs, I think. is that? Is that?
Mm, no, it was they changed the pattern. I think 2002 3 used to be crazy in terms of mathematics when cutoff used to be 1 or 2 marks actually in one
Correct.
of those years. But 2005 6 they changed the pattern and it was decent that day that year.
Yeah. But I think that from whatever cat in your year is 2006, I think that so ZAT, sorry, ZAT today, do you see a market different in terms of how the ZAT is over the years? Has it changed, Siddharth?
Couple of things, yes. One, quant is becoming easier. So past 2 3 years when I see quant of that, we used to be intimidated during those days from about the quant section of that. So that has eased out certainly. And they used to have analytical reasoning questions. In my year, they asked a lot of analytical reasoning questions which were difficult to crack. But they don't ask that used to be part of the decision making section. So that has changed. These are the two things which are very evident. As far as the VA part is concerned, I think it is more or less same. Maybe they have inclined towards critical reasoning more these days, but more or less same.
Right, right. So before I get started with this session, I have this question to you. XLRI, I'm guess is one of the top five colleges in this country, the oldest, in fact, in the India, or probably I think the oldest institution in India among all the sort of the top institutions. The number of takers for CAT is probably 2.5 lakhs. Why is it ZAT one fourth of that? And what is stopping people from applying? And what would be your take in terms of asking people to look at ZAT?
So the first thing is that less number of people because there is an aura around it that it is a very difficult exam to crack. And it has been since, I mean, this kind of belief has always been there. In our days it was because of the quant section, because it used to be very difficult, and now it is because of a new section, maybe decision making, which students don't encounter in the other exams. But I find that section is the most interesting and not that difficult to crack. It's easy actually. So people believe that it is difficult to crack the exam, plus then they hear about general knowledge, although it doesn't make a difference in the first round, and the essay writing, which CAT doesn't have. So it has slightly different aspect as far as new sections are concerned, different from CAT. So that could be one of the reason. And the way I see it, it is nothing, not much. There is not much of a difference between CAT and ZAT as far as the basics are concerned. They are same. ZAT has different way of asking the questions. So particularly, I mean, even in quant, if you see, we will be covering that anyways. Data interpretation, they give different types of charts. And so anybody who sees it for the first time might feel intimidated, but then those questions are not that difficult. So concept wise, it is similar to CAT only.
So congratulations to all those of you you're looking at that as an examination. For those of you who still haven't decided, I think that there are a couple of more days. The left, right. I think 11th. I think is they have extended it. I believe that my info is right. So please do take the test. There are a couple of questions. I'll just pick one question before I move on. XLR HR versus XBM, which is better? I think both are equally good. It's just
Both are.
two different programs. At this point in time, what you have to do is that you have to apply to all Badi colleges, XLRA Jamshedpur, XLRA Delhi, the BM program, the HRM program. You should apply to sort of every single test and decide later on once you convert the call. All these questions would merit when you actually convert the call, right? So at this point in time, don't worry about these kind of questions. Once you convert, then we'll discuss it. Okay. All right. So let's
One more thing,
start.
Jijo.
Yeah.
One
Sorry.
more
Yeah.
thing I will like to say. I mean, see, I have never met anyone who has said that he has prepared exclusively for XAT. Everybody prepares for CAT and they end up writing XAT also. So this is for all these students who believe that this is a different exam and they have to prepare differently. Not much. Everybody is in the same boat as far as this preparation is concerned. So once again, there is what I'm trying to say is that there is not much of a difference. Just write few mocks and appear for the test. Of course, we will be discussing strategy in detail. So yeah, over to you, Jijo.
Yeah, yeah. So there gives opportunity some of the best colleges. XLR is one of the best college in the country. You've got opportunity to look at XIM Bhubaneswar. There is IMT, there is Stapney, there is IDUMA, there is Mica. Also accepted, they have their own tests as well. There are KG Sumaya, lot many options that I have through the examination. Okay, so let's quickly go through what is that we want to cover. So we'll start with the what is the likely 2023 paper. We'll look at the past and then look at what is likely going to happen. We'll discuss the cutoffs and a good score when it comes to XAT. So the other thing is that we look at the pattern. This is like I think I changed it. So we'll look at the XAT in the every single section of the XAT. We will not only look at verbal ability. We'll also look at the decision making. We'll also look at quant. We will give you some input in terms of what you can expect with respect to GK and also essay, and then we'll eventually close with the prep strategy. So let me start with the first one, which is what is a likely XAT 2023 paper. Now, if you look at sort of the previous few years, right? So the XAT essentially comes in two parts: part one, and then there is part two. Part one consists of verbal ability and logical reasoning. This logical reasoning is actually critical reasoning. So this is not the logical reasoning that we talk in terms of CAT. This is like those critical reasoning question. One section of decision making, quantitative aptitude, and data interpretation. And the part two is general knowledge and essay writing. The part one is what is essentially your cutoffs and calls. Everything is based on the calls are based on part one. Part two is what XLRA specifically uses. One in the second stage. So in the second stage, when you go through the interview rounds, so they add the score of general knowledge and essay as well. We don't have information in terms of what is the weightage for these two things, right, Siddharth? I don't think that information is available. Eventually, what is the weightage for
No,
this?
no, that information is not available.
Yeah. This essay writing business, they have kind of discarded for a few years, then they got it back, right? You're actually
Yeah.
typing this. So if you typically look at the last few years, 165 minutes is given. So that has been the story in the 3 years. 165 minutes is given for the first part. Once you complete the first part, then you go to the second part with 26 question of verbal ability, 21 question of decision making, and 28 question of QADI. And the second part, you have got, I have no idea why they give 15 minutes for these 25 questions. This will probably get done in
Hmm.
about 3 minutes, I think. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I think this would have been a better pattern, right? 40 minutes, you do both if you
Correct.
want to, whichever they want to do. So you get a lot many time for essays. Here, I think at least last year they only gave about 10 minutes to write
And
that
that
one
is
essay.
less. 10 minute might be less.
10 minutes ही था ना last time.
हाँ, तो वो थोड़ा कम लग रहा है वैसे 10 मिनट से मतलब जीके का टाइम इधर दे देता तो ठीक है होता.
वही ना. So in general, if you look at this one, there is seems to be more or less the same the past 3 years. So when you look at this, it seems to be the case. And this year there is going to be essay. Therefore, we are likely going to predict that it's 165 minutes given to you. You can go in any order. These three sections. You'll have general knowledge, which is 15 minutes, and then this does not have any negative marking. So obviously there is no negative on essay. There is no negative marking for this. Here it has. So all these questions will have 5 options instead of 4. So +1 for every correct answer, minus 0.25 every wrong answer. In that, there is a minus 0.1 for every unanswered question after 8 questions in total. So let's say there is total, these at these three put together is 75 questions right now. 75, right? Yeah, 75 questions. So you let's say assuming that let's say you had let's say left 18 questions out. You left 18 questions without answering. So 8 question is Mafi. For this 10 question, you will lose that 1 mark. 10 question into point one. So should Siddharth, should people be worried about this?
No, actually, I think this is a practical demonstration of decision making. You should not be worried about it. It's not going to matter that much, right? Rather than fetching negative marks of which is much higher, it is better to leave the question unattempted. So don't worry about it. Behave as if it is not existing.
Just to illustrate, imagine when will you lose 1 mark here? You will lose a 1 mark if you get 4 questions wrong, right? 4 questions wrong, you lose 1 mark. To lose the first mark here, to lose the 1 mark here, actually you have to get so 10 question multiplied 10 questions wrong, that is minus point one. Plus there are 8 questions ka maafi hai. 18 questions you have to leave to lose that 1 mark. So there is no point in unnecessarily attempting questions because you believe there's a point one negative. This is so this is absolute critical that these two things are very different. For so please don't unnecessarily mark this. According to me, practically you ignore this. And eventually, I also think that they calculate the negative marking for the unanswered question and distribute it according to your attempt, right? Something like that. I think some logic they use. I'm not sure one of these logic, right? Yeah.
One thing,
Uh,
Jijo, I will like to point out,
hmm,
there is some discrepancy in the XAT website, because in
hmm,
their FAQs they have mentioned that duration of the test is 3 hours. That
hmm.
is 2 p.m. to 5:10. So 3 hours and then 3 hours 10 minutes. So I visited it. So I believe they want to say that it is actually similar to the last year, but they have perhaps created, there is some mistake in the FAQ section. So
So
students,
one
if they visit, so yeah,
uh, the 165, 180 will be 3 hours, right? Huh? That is 180 minutes, right?
नहीं,
Plus this 10
अच्छा
minutes.
तो वो
Uh,
अच्छा तो वो 10 मिनट्स का बीच में कुछ ब्रेक देता है फिर?
नहीं नहीं कुछ ब्रेक नहीं है ऐसे का 10 minutes है ना. So there is a 10 minutes for essay, and so
नहीं,
these two
टोटल ड्यूरेशन,
uh,
टोटल ड्यूरेशन मेंशनड इज द टोटल ड्यूरेtion of the test mentioned in the FAQ section is 3 hours. So
which,
so they have not counted the essay then. That's
yeah.
what I'm
So
saying.
okay, okay, okay. So in which case, this is what is likely going to happen. So that's the case. One other very very interesting thing about this particular test is that you are given 165 minutes. You can do whatever you want to do with it. So, for
Yeah.
example, in the CAT, you've got that pressure. I think the DLR solving those four or five sets in that time of in that pressure, right? Or maybe if the solving the reading comprehension in that 40 minutes is always sort of a pain. Here, here, if you actually look at, if you divide it equally, you actually have 55 minutes each for each of these sections, right? So that is consumable time, and there is not much of a difference, right? If you compare this to CAT at 24 question, this is 26 question. The second section, let's count it as a DLR, but here obviously decision making is going to consume much less time than what a DLR in the CAT would consume. That's about 21 questions. In CAT, in quant had about 22 questions. Here you have got 28 questions, out of which a few of them will be data interpretation. So you obviously have an option, and even look at, you can actually spend 60 minutes in section number one, 45 minutes in section number two, 60 minutes section number three, or you can even decide. I'm so used to solving so many of these mocks, and for the CAT 40 40 40, I can actually do round one of 40 40 40. Try and look at all the questions that I can solve, leave the ones that I don't know, and figure out what you want to do in the next 45 minutes. Or eventually you figure out your own way in which you want to look at it. So maybe you are good in verbal, and you will need a little more time for your con. Maybe I want to give quantitative aptitude, let's say 65 minutes, and verbal I'll manage in about 50 minutes. Maybe you will manage verbal in 45 minutes. Up to you. There's something that you can actually look at, which are the options, right? Siddharth, any sort of view here in terms of the time allocation for the test?
So best part about XAT is that we don't struggle for time. So my intent will always be to look through all the questions. That is the thing. And even if I have to think, maybe devote 1 or 2 extra minutes in a particular question, it's not going to affect my test too much. So my strategy would be whatever section, I mean 50-50 minutes kind of for each section, and then depending upon whichever section I feel like is the easier one, My agenda will be to get 40 plus chi score. Now, to get 40 plus chi score, I need 17, 18 in one of the section, and the remaining two sections, if I get 10, 11 marks, that's good enough. So first objective to get 10, 11 marks in each of the section, and then to decide that which section can boost my score more. So that would be my way of looking at the paper.
So
So
basically saying that
decision
10
making, because there are yeah.
sorry. Please continue. Yeah, sorry.
So decision making, because there are only 21 questions, and even if I attempt 21, I know that I will get 4 to 5 wrong. I mean, it's not possible for me to get 21 out of 21.
Correct.
So decision making, maximum I can get 12, 13 marks short of. Uh, it has to be between, I mean, the 17 mark section has to be between VA, RC, or quant, depending upon the individual's strength.
Yeah, I think that once you go through this particular session, this is a session where you can really maximize your score when it comes to the quant, when it comes to here. And you're right. So decision making, the number of questions is less. You're bound to make certain mistake. Your objective is like you're saying that. So basic objective is just first get 10, 10, 10 first, right? And figure out where you're
Yeah,
going to get the extra 8 marks from later on, right? Usually that is probably from this. So again, you're saying that you spend time in each of the sections. So this is something that you can figure out later on once you start taking the mock
yeah,
what works for you, right? So coming to that discussion about the scores, right? So when you look at the ZAT has got this is XLRA for the two programs, business management program, HRM program. They have got cutoffs, separate cutoff for male and female, though it is not usually different. 75 percentile, 72 percentile in one section is the same. 80 percentile and 75 percentile, 93 percentile, 90 percentile. This was last year, an HRM paper. What do you basically see the difference between the cutoff of businessman and HRM is the you look at 80 percentile is a cutoff for the verbal section when it comes to HRM. For the same, you see the cutoff to be 75 to 72, 75 to 72 percentile. That's kind of across the board, right? And the story changes when it comes to QA. For BM program, the QA percentile cutoff is slightly higher, while the HRM percentile cutoff is lower, right? The DM cutoff for both these section is more or less sort of the same. This is a story that is obviously all these cutoffs are usually decided post the event, so it's not decided previously. I think otherwise this particular number will never come out, right? And I think the 2021 2022 also had separate cutoff for engineer and non-engineer. I think that they kind of did not have it last year. That's at least that's what I know. So basically you're looking at so the bare minimum. If you pick up anything about 80th percentile when it comes to VLR, about 70 75, you can look at the 70th percentile, that's safe. And again about 80th percentile, that's safe. There are time when it's gone to 85 percentile also. But that also depends upon the number of people who have taken the test and how the score depends. So it's clearing cutoff is not a challenge, I think.
yeah. Get
Section.
80 percentile in each section. At least if you have applied to both BM and HRM, at least you will get a call.
80% each section, and overall there is a 93 to 90. But of course, the higher
Yeah, that is
uh, uh, the higher your score, better is your chances of getting
converting.
into
Yeah.
converting calls. So eventually, I think when I don't know what is the weightage that happens. Are you aware in terms of what weightage they actually give for that? They have not
No,
disclosed it even.
no, no. They do not disclose.
They do not disclose it. But generally, when you generally look at any college that have disclosed, usually 50 percentage weightage eventually goes
50%.
for the test, and the remaining 50 percentage goes for the rest of the stuff, which includes your interview, your PI interview, your VAT, and other things. So it's so a good. It is not suggesting that somebody with a low percentile will not convert. Higher is the percentile, higher is your chances always. So like you're saying that, therefore look at higher score. Okay, just want to kind of give you some idea in terms of the scores. This is for a male candidate, so this is the score. So we used to look at, for example, when you look at the VLR, usually in the range of 8 to 9 questions or marks, number of marks. There is a year 2020. Remember this paper, which
This
was
was terrible.
the
Yeah.
2.6 and 3.3, and I think it was horrible even for December. I don't know what they did in
DM.
2020. DM also, it's what they did, right? And there is in decision making, there are cases where your cutoff has gone to about 9ish. So something about 9 is what you want to look at. There have been years when it has come down as well. It all depends upon the paper, how difficult it is. And math is usually the highest has gone to about 11, 10ish, 10.5. So around 11ish is what you want to look at. And overall, you really want to look at your score, which is crossing about the highest that has gone to overall cutoff is 30 to 35 once upon a time, but usually it's in the range of 30 to 33. In 2020, it is just about 2021 was that particular cutoff here. So one thing I want to say is imagine this, right? So imagine, for example, in verbal ability and logical reasoning, if you attempt all the question have 50% accuracy, you will clear the cutoff. If you attempt 80% of the question with 55% accuracy, you're likely going to clear the cutoff. If you attempt 60% of the question with higher accuracy, likely going to clear the cutoff, right? That is probably the same case with EL. 100% accuracy, 100% attempt, 50% accuracy, right? Or 50% questions, or 40% question with 90% is accuracy. And what is likely? So this is sorry, decision making, and this is
Same.
QA. Okay. Last minute addition to the PPT. What
I
is
think
likely?
QA section. Yeah.
क्यूएस सेक्शन ऐसा कुछ होने वाला है ना usually.
Right, right.
In QS section, you're probably going to look at your percentage. You'll be this, and in DM is likely going to be here,
Yeah.
and your verbal is probably
Second
going to
wala.
be here. This is likely going to be here. So this does not require that you need to have 80% accuracy, 90% accuracy, in the sense just to clear the cutoff. But if you have higher accuracy, you can really clear those kind of cutoff. But what is typically what you find is that decision making, typically everybody answers all the questions because you will always feel one is answer choice. In verbal ability and logical reasoning, barring maybe some of those grammar based questions or vocabulary based questions that you don't know the meaning of, you might skip it. And math is definitely going to be this, right? So if you attempt all the questions with 50% accuracy, you're likely going to clear those kind of cutoffs. So that's just want to say. But you really want to look at scores like these, right? Like you're saying, and the mantra that you say that first round may try and get a 10, 10, 10, and fetch for the additional 10, 10 for somewhere else later. This is what Siddharth is telling.
Yeah.
So uh,
Or if or else you be good at all the three sections and get 13, 14 marks in each. The
I think that
simplest way to look at it.
this is I think decision making is where you probably will not be able to maximize your score. You have to do
Mm.
enough to sort of at least do really well in that particular section. Uh, so doing well is that if you attempt or everything, your accuracy should be more than half of the question should be correct. So that's what it is. And when it comes to this, so that's basically what is about here. Okay, so if there is any questions, so let's look at each of these sections one by one. We'll start with the first section is verbal ability and logical reasoning. So before I start, uh, if you want to make a comparison, Siddharth, with respect to the cat, how do you compare the verbal section of ZAT vis-a-vis cat?
See, SCAT was purely reading and reasoning based. There are hardly any knowledge based question as such. But in that, you have at least 4 to 5 knowledge based questions, like questions on grammar or questions on vocab, which comes in the form of the fill-ups. So there are 4 to 5 questions which are based on knowledge, and if you are good at it, then you can score those 4 5 marks in virtually 2 3 minutes. So uh, that is one difference. Second, the type of passages which I mean, then there is poem, which is another difference. So not every year, but in most of the years we see that ZAT paper has a poem. So that is a bit of bit of a challenging part which the students need to practice. Then there is critical reasoning. In the cat you have the odd one outs and the summary type, but here there are questions on what can you infer and what can you conclude. But I think if somebody has practiced RC, so those questions can be dealt with easily. So critical reasoning and RC part is similar to what the skills required is similar to what is being tested in cat, but then there is poem and the knowledge wala part here, which is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. So just to give you the last 5 6 years, if you look at 2022, so you've got reading comprehension. Typically, what you get about 12 to 13 questions. So there are usually four passages, and here there were like five passages. I really don't know whether I should call this critical reasoning because it was one sorry reading because it was very one short paragraph with two questions is likely probably you can consider that to
Critical
be critical
reasoning.
reasoning as well. And then, like you said, poem comprehension. There were two poems with three questions. Then it's couple of questions, couple of questions, couple of questions. So there are cases when you have poems, poem comprehension. A short poem is given, and then you have critical reasoning questions, which is usually for 4 5 6. This is another part. Paragraph jumble with options. So there is another couple of questions, and then this particular part is sort of your knowledge based story about that's about five odd questions, right? So if I generally so look at in this particular fashion, right? So these three is essentially even critical reasoning is like a short paragraph asking you questions on a short paragraph is similar to comprehension. Poem comprehension, it's still slightly different when it comes to more figurative contextual sort of meaning, but these are all comprehension. When you look at this comprehension, that is almost three-fourths of the paper. Three-fourths of the paper is comprehension. Then you have this paragraph jumble, which is again knowledge reasoning based one. The knowledge based one is 20%. So even Siddharth, even for those who are worried, for example, my vocabulary is sort of weak. In this case, you look at this total is 5 year, four questions here, four questions here, five questions here, four questions here. So if I get so when I'm looking at cutoff, something like cutoff should be about 9 8 9 marks. Okay, so when you look at let's say the cutoff of 8 to 9 marks, this will be probably the cutoffs. I've taken the higher of the two cutoffs. So this cutoff of
Yeah.
9 marks will be for the HRM one. I've just picked up the higher of the two sort of cutoff here for the male candidate. So female candidate probably one question less. So you look at that, you're looking at about nine questions. Nine questions. The total number of questions is 26. Even if it, let's say knock almost all the RCs, right? So if you get almost all these many RCs questions correct, you're still going to manage the paper. So even if you look at the the paper and say that there is knowledge based questions, uh, uh, there is still there are knowledge based questions, but whatever you prepared sort of for your cat still will help you a lot in this section. It's not very different. It is still very comprehension heavy paper with almost 80% of the questions is comprehension heavy, and then you have got vocabulary and grammar based so questions, right? So yeah.
So even in the vocab questions, if you see the
Hmm.
previous year papers, if somebody is has been reading for CAT, I mean
Hmm.
regularly, if somebody is reading, then those questions are not very difficult. They don't ask very difficult words. So Phillips are easy questions to manage if somebody has been reading consistently. Don't need to do anything different for it. And for grammar questions, see, when it comes to grammar, I think it is a pain point for almost everyone. Even the good readers, they struggles with some kind of some topics. But if you look at the ZAT, and if you can eliminate the options, so for example they give set of 5 questions, and if you are sure that this one surely I know is the correct usage, so you can eliminate the option and maybe work around it. So what I will say is that don't when you solve the paper or when you appear in the exam, don't simply skip the grammar questions. Have a look at it. Anyways, you will be having a lot of time in the paper. Maybe you can eliminate the options and get to the right answer.
Yeah. For many grammar, Siddharth is more like dil se re. So you look at the paper, what you feel is the answer. But actually, if you look at the grammar questions, of we'll show a few questions. When you look at the grammar question, the by and large is not hyphened or anything. It's like basic. If you
Yeah.
know the basic rules, you can manage. I think grammar is about rules, right? Grammar still has got some formulas that you can work with. Vocabulary is kind of maybe washed, but grammar still has got formula you can work with. And those of you are probably going to prepare for taking this IFT or if you're watching the video after the IIT, then so if you prepared for IFT or maybe snap examination, I'm sure that you would have covered grammar there. Okay. Uh, just getting into give a little more just understanding about what is reading comprehension. You might be wondering there is a talk of that reading comprehension is stuff. So one option, of course, is the fact that you've got five options instead of four answer choices. You've got five answer choices, but usually a couple of them is usually very stupid. You still have to eliminate and work for the elimination. Just to give you a sense in terms of the type of passages, for all those of you who have been watching our session consistently, you know what this is the flesh Kincaid grade level, which gives you how dense the passage. It uses a formula to calculate how dense the passage is. So any grade above 13 is considered. Anything about 16 is really dense, and it's about 30. You've seen in the CAT, you've seen lot many of the 16s, and this is happening. So, but here you look at this one, you've got 9.4, 13.4. It's not very dense. Three were taken from articles, one from Ion essays, one from ABC, this is, I believe, Australian Broadcasting Service, one from Quartz magazine, and then one taken from a book. The number of words you look at is 318, 341, 327, 417. In the CAT, you remember, if you want to remember CAT has got 500 words, right? Here it's got four passages with 300, 400 words. And what is very interesting here, you can see stupid, idiot, bullshit. I don't know. I think whoever has thought about 2022 paper thought, okay, I'm just going to pick these three. I don't know whether it is by choice. When you look at the type of questions, the big picture questions would be the questions like main idea, tone, structure. Okay, that is one of them. This is a total here. The detail-based question, where the information according to the passage one, it's about 5, and inference-based question about 6. So this is something that you used to in terms of CAT is no different from here uh, than what you found in the CAT. If you want, I'll put one more here, a story 2021 as well. Again, you look at it, you've got 226, 432, 378 word, 371. This is what I was talking about. That one sort of just one paragraph. The grading is like very short sentences. 13.1 grade, 12.7. Couple from article, the BBC, the Guardian, an essay written by Tagore. This is a couple of books. So if you've gone through CAT, my bet is that you have exposed yourself to very diverse and even more denser kind of stuff. You've been used to reading 500 words, right? And you've used to solve 500 words. You've done all these type of questions. So this is no way different. So do you actually see any difference? Market difference? At least the questions are crazy, options are crazy. Do you see any market difference when you
No,
see?
I don't feel both are same. And if you have appeared for CAT, then and prepared for CAT, then as far as the reading comprehension part is concerned, that is already covered for you. I mean, you just need to practice till the exam. That's it.
It's just that you've got five options. You've got one more thing to eliminate, but couple of options is very easy to eliminate, and you usually, as usual, we get stuck with it. ZAT 2020 is of course painful, but that's so. Even if you look at ZAT 2020 from a passage point of view, you again coming back to 293 words, 325 words, 216 words, 286 words. The grade is like very manageable. Aeon essays, economics from a book, couple of books. Look, it's just a very similar one. Here, I think that vast majority of the questions were inference based, right? So that's probably what would have, I don't know whether that trouble people. So the point is making a point that you see here is that whatever is a challenge that you face in the CAT in those 40 minutes trying to do those passages. I'm basically guessing that people will should be able to do all these passages, right? There is no point leaving anything when it comes
Yeah,
to
yeah.
uh, components,
Yes,
that you're not leaving it. Okay, you are solving, right? This is
yeah,
at least it's an open book exam. No reading comprehension, it's there. Okay, so
right.
and then there is no need to hurry unnecessarily. So this is something that you can do, right? Just to talk about poem comprehension. Poem comprehension. The thing about poem is everything about. Poem is very figurative in the sense. So in a prose, when somebody says something is a tiger, then that is the tiger. In poem, it meant tiger could mean anything. It is probably
Yeah,
it can be anything. It can be bigger. It can be anything. So you say that sunset in the prose will be sunset. Here it could be different. So imagery is important. So that's how deal with the poem. You're not used to poem comprehension. We are never used to it. I think Cat gave poem in 2003. I remember in the league paper
yeah.
once.
Only once I think they give. Yeah,
Yeah, Itaha. I think that was a poem that
yeah.
Cat gave, but I think uske baad to no other exams give. That has been consistently giving since 2018. So 2023 likely is going to happen. So this is just a question on ZAT 2022 question. Just a small tips. So when you look at poems, right? So when you look at this poem, like I smiled at you because I thought that you were someone else. You smiled back and there grew. If you read it like this, you'll not understand. But obviously, you see that there is no punctuation here, right? It's getting punctuated here. This is called enjambed lines. So you're actually cutting one actual sentence and then putting it in the next one, right? So the way in which you want to read is read till you see a punctuation. So it's something like this. So you will understand the passage better. It's like then you understand the story better. Like you're saying, I smiled at you because I thought you were someone else. So you were someone else. You smiled back. And there grow between two strangers in library is something that seems like love. But you loved me, if that's a word, because you thought I was other than I was. And by and by we found we are being mistaken all the while from that first glance, that first mistaken smile. Basically, people met somewhere in a library, two strangers thought they were someone else. And which of the following cannot be inferred? So you actually see answer choice. You have to eliminate. The elimination is key. We don't fall in love with others. What is this? And I was like, can't. This should be the answer. So, any sort of ideas and tips that for people who want to look at poems? Uh,
See, when I attempt the poem, I simply try to understand its meaning. I previously what I used to do, I don't know whether my method is right or wrong, because frankly speaking, even I have not practiced this that much, right? But what I feel is sticking to what poem is talking about is better than thinking about the bigger picture that it might be giving us the life lesson or something. That
correct.
I think should be avoided according to me.
So first thing, a poem gives an image. So it will have some setting.
Yeah,
It will have a speaker. It will have an audience.
right.
You poems. You will say that is relatable to some theme. Then again, its poem is not sort of very big. I have this one site. Okay, so if I let me just search here. Let me just open this site. Poem analysis. If you Google poem analysis, this is not an endorsement for this particular site. But let me just, why is it taking a lot of time? I have no idea what's going on. There you go. This poemanalysis.com. So here, there is no questions here. Okay, so it has got a sort of list of many poems. So for example, here, let's say if you click on one of the poems, right, it gives you, let the page open. No, okay. So it gives you a gyan about the summary of the poem, the themes in the poem. You can read about two to three stuff, and you get general understanding how to deal with sort of what the poem means. So obviously you don't need to have this in depth for that, but you will get sort of some set. So poemanalysis.com is sort of a site that I've when so basically, Siddharth, when I had to teach poem comprehension, I was like, how do I teach now? So we need some inspiration. So I was now searching. So I found this site, and I found, okay, this good. I think that I get a lot of ideas there. I think the last we read poem probably would be in school, right? उसके बाद तो I think, yeah. At least
Yeah.
some people may write
स्कूल
poems,
में
I think.
एक टीचर्स की ये आदत होती थी ना कि मतलब वो पोएम पढ़ाते थे, स्टोरी पढ़ाते थे, उसके बाद मॉरल ऑफ द स्टोरी यूज्ड टू बी बिग लेसन्स. And what we do in CAT and other things is we say stick to what passage is talking about, don't think beyond passage. So वो थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है बच्चों को शुरू में तो.
Yeah. So what you'll eventually have to do. So what you need to understand is the previous that paper is going to be your first source in terms of learning and understanding how to deal with stuff like these. Okay. These are the sources that I found. Yeah, the poems of the Zat. So there are all sort of poems. There were a couple of poems by Vikram Seth. Then you have Robert Frost. Some poems that I'm sure that we would not have read. Some famous ones. It could be anything. That they very short sort of poems. It's not a long one. It's probably one stanza, short stanza. There are poems with just 4 lines. There are sometimes 8 lines. So it's not very huge as well. So this is manageable. So you can it's not very different. It's just that need to have a kind of a one slightly different kind of thinking about it, but by and large it's going to be the same. The type of question typically that you find is the big picture question. Title kya hai, the spirit of the poem, essence of the poem, and then gets into specific in terms of images of line number one. What does this mean? These could be some of the questions that can sort of confuse you. But again, when you look to eliminate one, you understand what the poem is trying to say. What could be the likely ideas that comes out of it? And when you start eliminating answer choices, you'll be able to get more. I think this probably, if anyone would have looked at this particular poem, okay, you'll find you're looking at this. How is this an answer? How is this an answer? Uh, and then the poet agreement, inferred, and you've got all sort of questions in poem. Okay.
Yeah.
Critical reasoning.
Literary devices पे questions नहीं है, metaphor, simile, and all those things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The snap exam asks that, right?
Huh. Yeah, yeah. At least that is so far not asked in terms of literary devices.
Yeah.
What is this use? It is more in terms of just comprehension. So far, that's the case. So, in which case, the number of figures of speech is very limited. Anyway, I think that's about what, 20 odd of them. I keep
Yeah.
forgetting a lot of names. Metonymy, onomatopoeia, right? Something like that. What
Onomatopoeia, and
onomatopoeia and
synecdoche. I
allegory.
don't know, a lot of,
Yeah, yeah, a lot of these ones. So if so some you remember, some you forget. Critical reasoning questions. Critical reasoning questions. That typically you see question which ask main point. What is the main conclusion? Summary. This is very similar to summary question. Inferences question. Which kind of following is true based information given? Assumption question. Strength and weaken question. Evaluation question. Flawed reasoning question. Most, at least the last year, the only question that was inference question. The vast majority of the question I've been inferring. Evaluation would be which of the following the author agree, disagree with, those kind of questions. So when you look at, let's say, if you look at these, right? So if you look at, for example, main point question, inference question, evaluation question, it is by and large your reading comprehension. And I'm guessing that people would have anyway done such kind of things even for the cat, right? Cat still asks those questions like if true, if this one. So this is an area. So you'll find it. You find it very similar to just a reading comprehension. That's what I found. It's like it's same reading comprehension with a very short passage. So that is that your thought as well? So
same thing.
uh,
Same
uh,
thing. There is no difference between it, and at this point in time, I think solving all the previous year questions, the number of years you can solve better it is, that will be good enough. That will give you exposure to all different types of question, and that is what you should
uh,
aim for.
yeah. So, for example, this is questions like this. I'm not going to solve this. Which of the column can be best concluded from the passage? What is given and what is sort of the answer here? And you'll find that one thing is the same thing apply. Any disaster is a combination. Any historical event uh, actually cannot be averted. So a lot of this, I can already see eliminatable answer choices. You solve it yourself, you'll be able to manage this. Paragraph jumble, it's come with options. I think I've seen some crazy paragraph jumble questions in XAT, okay, which means you have got this paragraph, right? This is an essay. The XAT has actually taken the first sentence from here, the second sentence from here, the third sentence from here, fourth sentence from here, fifth sentence, and given. And they go, and then all that is arrange the following sentence in a logical sequence. That is what they are saying. They're not even calling it paragraph completion. Okay, they're just calling you to arrange it in logical sequence. I'm going to give 5 sentences from one essay that is given. But the good thing is that you have got options, right? That's uh, sort of a good thing. A small thing that you look at it, you will be able to manage. For example, if you look at here, right, this talks about in America. This one is worse in India, Mexico, right? And then you have this a school here near us in many countries. So at least you know that the order would be two, then going to one, and then going to four, right? I'm not saying immediately. There seems to be two, then one, and four. That itself will you'll be able to eliminate few answer choices. Then you look at something. So you can see is so you just have to figure out what is that trend. Once you understand that, you'll be able to manage. So you've got options. This is something that you can look at. Vocabulary grammar. So something Siddharth was saying. If you look at the typical, so first is your fill in the blanks questions. But at least this is good, right? You've got some kahani that is given to you, and then you have to fill in the blanks. These are the painful ones, and antonyms, synonyms, analogies, couple of questions 2019. And these are all the grammar questions, usually preposition, articles, questions tag, those kind of questions, and grammatically correct incorrect sentences. And if you over the years, if you look at the kind of errors, I believe the kind of errors is more or less the same only, by subject verb agreement and what else,
Hmm.
tenses
So
and
four,
parallelism. Uh,
yeah, I think 4 5 topics: subject verb agreement, prepositions, pronouns, tenses, articles. That should be good enough.
yeah, na?
And
Basic.
anything that,
Uh,
basic, ये
Parallelism. Okay, this is
parallelism maybe, yeah.
yeah. A few things when you look at it, and that theme keeps repeating, and you'll be able to answer the questions. Okay, so the usual question that, so one of the things that I see, usually you see this, which you're filling the blanks, and usually you will see this correct inference questions, right? It's not the case always you'll find, but usually that's what you'll find, right? Usually. So one question that you usually find is something like this. So there have been years when XAT has used some difficult options. I believe that 2019 XAT has, but there are many of the cases you have meaning of these words, right? So you at least you get a context. So you get a context, you'll be able to answer this question. I'm not solving this, but this can be answered answered using the context. Right? You read the sentence, you can guess. All three were unplanned already, so something has to be. This has to be something that is probably negatives, right? And remained negative upon the discovery, remained negative. So you're looking at, you can't look at the word amazing, superb, uh, amazing, fulfilling. So that should be enough for you to say that it should be unpredicted, unappreciated. That is enough for you to kind of crack these questions. So just knowing a few things, you'll be able to deal with this. And next, you have these grammatically correct questions. It's not as though these are very difficult, right? So which of the following question is grammatically correct? Always look for incorrect ones. No, I think look for the problem. I think that's what I would advise. Siddharth, nahin? Hmm?
Yeah, even I will advise look for the incorrect one. But in this particular question, spotting sixth one is the correct was the easiest thing. My friend is good at playing football, so I know that is the right usage. But usually, incorrect identifying incorrect is the easier one.
For example, if you figure out that I have done it many a times, uh, uh, many a times नहीं बोलता ना, many a time. Huh?
Many
How
a
can you
time,
say
yeah.
many a so you three cannot, so ये निकल जाएगा, and then you figure out whether one है कि four है. So you can sort of eliminate this correct only, right? Huh? I had a dream. You don't see a dream. You had a dream. So two is incorrect. There you go. What is it? Ah. So you have anyway, so these are stuff that you can manage. Okay. So in sort of summary, what I want to basically talk about in terms of verbal is that in summary, when you look at verbal, uh, what I want to summarize is that whatever you help for a cat is going to help. Additional thing is about poem comprehension, right? That's the additional thing that you want to look at. Grammar based questions, and especially these kind of questions. How to solve these kind of questions, knowing the way in which predicting and solving this question, which is a fill in the blanks kind of question. If you look cover this up, stuff will be okay. And you will strongly recommend to definitely look at the past XAT paper. Don't look at past XAT paper as a mock test. Do look at the past XAT paper as individual questions and trying to learn from each question, and that is going to be sort of important. Anything you want to add before we move to decision making? Uh,
No, fine. We can move
yeah.
to decision making.
Okay. Decision making is probably that section. But some people think that decision making is reading comprehension. It is not. Decision making. So some people with decision making पता नहीं क्या होता है, वो भी नहीं है. So when you typically look at any decision process, the first thing that you have to do, this is not, I'm saying in general decision making process, you have to gather the information. First, you understand what information. You identify the problem first, right? Situation is you've got fever. Fever is a symptom. It's not a problem. Whether it is dengue, whether it is COVID, or whether it is flu, identify the problem. And then you have to establish decision criteria. Whatever solution, okay, I've got fever. Now what do I do? I've got fever which is like 103 degrees. So immediate problem. I have to solve it. Maybe, for example, I've got an exam tomorrow. Then I have a different criteria. I have to go and take the exam tomorrow. That's something need to happen. Or maybe I don't have enough money with me. So then I have different solutions. So your decision criteria, and once you weigh the decision criteria, you generate alternatives, various solutions. And you have to evaluate the alternatives towards the decision criteria and come with the best alternative. So the most important thing when it comes to this process of decision making questions in the exam is your ability to understand this criteria. That is all. So it's either it is implied there, or it can be it is explicitly mentioned. You understand the criteria, story is over. So when people say that XAT is about XAT decision making, according to me, is to understand what is my decision criteria from the passage, understanding the parameters. How do I solve the problem? What is my criteria to arrive at a sort of problem? And the criteria should be based on what is given in the passage, right? For instance, if I look at this question, right? So Dilip sells dosas in front of an upscale hospital, city in Punjab. He only sells two varieties of dosas, plain for rupees 20 and 40, two dosas. His dosa stall is popular among hospital staff members who's mostly hail from South India, form his core clientele. So you is people from South India, hospital staff from South India are his core clientele. Great. They frequent his stall during office hours. They come during office hours. They because they find the dosas to be reasonably priced. So price is an important criteria for them, right? Though hospital staff member can visit upscale food court on top of the floor, they prefer his stall for breakfast and lunch and even occasional evening snack. So they come for breakfast and lunch. His daily sales volume is 300 and 400 dosas. Okay. Demand for masala dosa is 50 to 60%. So this is masala dosa 50 to 60%. Therefore, this will be about 40 to 60%. Why is hospital staff coming? Hospital staff coming because it is reasonably priced. When are they coming? They're coming for breakfast, lunch, and occasional evening stuff. That's the story. How important are they? For him, they are very important. This is a story. Right? One day, Dilip, while walking through the hospital food court, sees a vacant spot. He wonders if he can shift his stall to that particular spot. Okay. Now he is wanting to move his business. Core clientele, South Indian hospital staff. So what are the important criteria to them? Price is going to be important to them. Okay. Which of the following will dissuade him the most? Which will dissuade him the most? Food courts sees a daily footfall about 5,000 people. Why would that be a problem? 3,000, 4,000. This will not going to dissuade him. All the restaurants in food court except fast food stall sell North Indian meal. The South Indians, for South Indian, therefore North Indian meal is not available. Now he has got dosas. Now this is a good one. The food court closes at 10:30 p.m. Although his current stall is open till midnight. Who cares? They are coming to eat breakfast, lunch, and occasional evening stall. So that's fine. They come for office hours. So even if it is closed at 10:30 p.m., he's not going to lose them. There are no other stalls selling dosas. Wonderful. Okay, therefore it has to be a. On inquiry, he learned that the cheapest dish in the food court is priced at 200 rupees. Now you're looking at the price. Do we say the most? Now, obviously, he'll be thinking about it, right? Logically. So why is it priced the low? The lowest price is 200. Maybe the cost of operation may be high there. Maybe there is another cost attached to it. But at least that is going to decide the most because it has got the key criteria with respect to price. That's all. So eventually, when you look at this decision making process, the most important one is understand what criteria I'm going to use to answer the question. Once you gather that, the rest of the problem is fine. People say that ethical, unethical, this what to do. All criteria will be given. So its criteria will be there, and you have to imply criteria, understanding the criteria. That's a story when it comes to decision making, right? Siddharth, your thoughts on DM?
See, you have built a very robust model around the decision making, so I can't add anything else to it. The way I solve it is simply read it, identify what are the constraints and what are my objectives to be met. But this is a much better model, so people should follow it. Yeah,
Uh,
but then
uh,
there are sometimes they ask the decision making questions which are bit mathematical in nature, means decision has
Correct.
to be taken by mathematically solving few things. So at that point in time, maybe students can decide to skip that question and they can come back to it later on. not
Yeah.
not many times, but I have seen couple of times they have asked such kind of caselets.
Yeah, so that is old type. A lot of this, I think, in the recent one there is not there. So what you're saying is
Yeah,
almost very
recent.
the same. So when you say that I'm looking at objective and constraints, right? You are establishing this only,
Yeah,
right? Huh? Where
yeah,
objective
yeah,
क्या है?
yeah,
What is it?
yeah,
Huh? So it's the
yeah,
same thing only. So
yeah,
it's just that you and I are using very different words. I have this is
yeah,
not even my words. Okay, this is not even my process. This is
yeah.
the decision making process. That is
That's how it is. Yes. Yeah,
that's how decision making process is supposed to happen. So if a decision making process is supposed to happen in this particular format, then that's how it is, right? So so there is probably remember there is this one case. I think this was a case which talks about there is a country A here adjacent to a country B. There is a kingdom A, kingdom B. There is a kingdom C which is bordering these two people, and this is a hero fellow. He wants to actually uh, expand his place. There is a kingdom K here, which and these two are have got problem, and that's a and the question is help this fellow. What should he do? There's sort of one question. This guy. So the case also says that the weapons available with A is less than C. Weapon available with B is less than C. But A plus B put together, the weapon is more than C. So that is case that is given. So one question that was asked was now both of them come to know that this fellow C is uh, is trying to expand, double his weapons, right? And in the next few years. And the question specifically asks which of the following answer choices will ensure, which is best to ensure that this will get delayed. what should A and B do to delay the process, right? Which is best. And if you look at element answer choices, the best answer choice is what? To attack C immediately. And that was a logic because that is the only thing that is going to delay. The other answer choices do not delay it. So the point that I'm saying is that I don't have to use my sort of the ethical view and unethical view and this view and that view. I think that everything is given. It's practically laid down here in the decision making. And so if you have that logic, you'll get it. And it is also right. So Siddharth, while I say this, 100% accuracy is probably not happening. Right? You got bound to make some mistake. Uh, and I'm sure that if decision making was anything like 2020, it's even crazier, right? So you've got
Yeah.
your so wo wala question. So just to give a sense in terms of how it's been here, which is you've got usually in the last 3 to 4 years you've seen 7 cases, 3 questions each. Okay, in 19 there are 7 cases with couple of them 2 questions and a couple of them 4 questions. 2018 had got analytical. This is what Siddharth was referring to, which has got some math involved. Prior to that, when you start looking at the story of decision making in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, you also had decision making and analytical. I think that's what that was section was called, right? Decision making and analytical reasoning.
It
Uh,
and yeah, analytical reasoning. It was called
uh,
that way.
it was called that way, and then used to be about 50% of the question would be analytical reasoning, 50, and the analytical reasoning
Yeah,
used to be really painful. I remember some are manageable,
really
some are
painful. I mean,
uh,
it you can attempt those questions only by hit and trial kind of methods.
yeah.
The hit and
So
trial was the easiest way to solve it, I believe.
but now what is it? It's purely decision making questions. And the way in which they have framed the question, if I look at a couple of years, right? So let me explain this. This is just the name of the case, ignore it. The type of case could be involving people. So some people say HR problem. Others would be kind of strategies. I think, for example, this guy wants to open a new center. Second is a personal issue. I think somebody facing some sort of a dilemma. It could be usually ethical dilemma that people face, and again concerns related to social society, and then policy issues. One particular unit has to decide something, and do a lot of different cases. And typically, what happens? They start by giving you about 245, 100 and a short story. Right? So one basic story, like the one that you have seen here. And the basic story is given, and every question has got some extra bit of detail. So here, that's what you're seeing here. So here, 51 words extra fact, additional fact for that question, and then 110. So 25, 55, 93, 57, 120. That's how this frames. So a basic setup is given, then additional fact is given in questions, and then you have to apply that using the information criteria here, additional criteria here. Look at what the question needs to happen, and then you look at the options. So it's not like you don't have to read too many stuff. All put together, you end up reading about 400, 300, 400 words. I remember the time, once upon a time, previously, when you look at 2009 and all, 2010, that time you've got cases which went for 800 words also. But now it is like very, very short ones. The type of question could be one that identify cause. What is the problem? What is the cause of this particular problem? Impact of evidence means, okay, there's an evidence is which of the following, if true, will uh, will reduce the concern. If a new evidence comes, so it's like those kind of question. What action to be taken, which is like what is the best course of action, what is the best solution. Other is order of preferences. Usually they give 4 things, and from worst to best to worst, order this. This is the type of questions. Most of them are action related. If you go back and look at 2021, you've got certain thing which is identify the cause, and mostly action driven. Again, the same story, a very similar kind of caselet, and the caselet having words. Only in one case, the question directly it was asked. So that case at 248 words. So it is kind of a section which is manageable so long as you know and understand the process. Once you understand the process, it is done. So the most important thing that you have to do with decision making is to look at the past XAT papers, right? That is what you have to do. Is questions, individual question, learn from individual questions. Siddharth, how should your take on how should people prepare for these decision making?
Previous 5-year question papers, solving each questions and noting down the mistakes, revising them once again. That will be it. Solving 150 questions will be good enough
Yeah,
for decision making. That's what I will suggest, rather than running here and there and looking for new material. First solve the previous 5-year question paper. You will be taking mocks, maybe 4 to 5 mocks before that. So even that, in the mocks, you will be solving around 100 questions. That will be good enough.
yeah, yeah. So it is. it is the myth that people say is okay, कुछ भी होता है इसमें. Yes, it is. You're bound to make some mistakes. It's impossible. So here, decision making, I'm looking at attempting almost all the questions. Right, I'm making the best decision that I want. If I get absolutely confused, maybe I'll skip it. But from that, I'm probably going to use my logic. You have to understand the logic, right? Like what Siddharth was telling you, that you have to look at the past, sort of the past papers. That's important. Past questions. Also, you can pick up the DM 1000 course run by me and GP. That's also another one you can do. Quantitative ability and data interpretation. I don't know how many of people have got problem with this particular area. Let me start with the story here. Okay, arithmetic. So there is this lot of people. Siddharth, I keep hearing people say that इसमें बहुत probability होता है. Questions for probability. Have you heard that?
That was way back in 2001, 2002 when cutoff used to be 1 or 2 marks. So that used to be different game. Nowadays, even if they ask the questions, these questions are not very difficult.
This whole idea that when people, you keep hearing these things like, oh, it is like you've got this one, you've got standard deviation. They used to ask once upon a time all those things, but if you look at it, it's the same good old arithmetic. At least in lot many years, arithmetic were hero. Numbers here, okay, arithmetic numbers, right? And arithmetic numbers is like what, 10 here, 10 here, 4 here, 7 here, 9 here. Your algebra, in 1 year it was high. Your geometry questions and your modern math, so questions which is, and data sufficiency once in a while. And you've got DIs, right? DI is usually 3 sets, sometimes 9 questions, sometimes 8, sometimes 6, kuch bhi. Okay, so there'll be DI. There could be this one, and the cutoff you're looking at is about 10ish, right? So just to illustrate to you the questions, let's for example look at this ZAT 2022 question. I've just taken two. I actually took two random questions. Okay, I just picked two random questions, and this happened to be these two questions. Sum of the cubes of two numbers is 128. X cube plus y cube equals to 128. While the sum of reciprocal of these cubes is 2. 1 by x cube plus 1 by y cube is 2. The question is, what is the product of the squares? X y ka square kya hai? This is what is asked. Okay, or x square into y square. So x square into y square. That's what you want to find out. So first of all, what is this? This is this particular thing is x cube plus y cube divided by x cube y cube. Okay, that is 2. X cube plus y cube is 128, which means this is 128. This is therefore x cube plus y cube is 64. Therefore x5 will be equal to 4. 4 square is 16. Yay. And look at, for example, this question. Some member of a social service organization in Kolkata decided to prepare 2,400 ladus to gift to children in various orphanages and slums in the city during Durga Puja. The plan is that each of them makes the same number of ladus. Okay, some members, I don't know, X members. However, on laddu making day, 10 members were absent. Only X minus 10 people were there. Thus, each remaining member makes 12 laddus more than the earlier decided. How many will actually make the laddus? You just use option. First of all, you have got this. If this is actually made, people total should have been 100. Your total should have been 60. Total should have been what? 24 plus 10 should be 34. Total should have been 110. Total should have been 15. Whatever is the value, uh, and they were the plan for each of them to make the same number of laddus. So therefore, 2,400 should be divisible by these numbers. It is not divisible by 90. It is not divisible by 34. It is not divisible by 110. You straight away eliminate three answers. You check which one. One of them will be the answer to the question. So when you actually look at the math sort of paper in the CAT, if you actually go through the questions about the recent paper, you will actually find that these questions are very crackable. How do you rate math questions, Siddharth, in terms of your ZAT versus CAT? Your recent CAT with the recent ZAT, your comparisons.
See, uh, I think CAT may be more oriented towards arithmetic, and XAT has a more variety to it. But as far as the difficulty level is concerned, there is not much of a difference. So maybe the language wise, so for example, we were seeing that previous laddu wala question.
Mm.
So maybe the language wise, if somebody have a look at the question, then they may feel that XAT is more difficult too. The quant of XAT is more difficult. But once you read it properly and try to apply the concept, it is not that difficult. So almost same, maybe slightly more difficult in XAT, but not much of a difference.
My take is actually easier. My take is if you actually
Okay,
find, well, only thing is that you need to have your concepts clear in almost all the areas. That's the only story,
almost,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So typically, what happened with people who prepare for CAT is that they looked at arithmetic only, and probably would have better. I think sometimes they ask a few of trigonometry, heights and distances. Something comes. So you've got to look at the ZAT 2022 paper 2021. If you keep looking at back, if you look at 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, you'll probably look at the paper and go, "This is crazy," right? But if you actually look at the papers now, it is very manageable. uh, so it's not as difficult as you consider this paper to be, right? You should be able to clear cut off, and those of you good in maths can look at doing well. The second, of course, area is data interpretation. Um, your thoughts on this data? I think this you are saying something, in the beginning about how DI looks in
I mean,
that.
see, if you look at this graph, then this may look intimidating. But if you read it, whatever information they have given, it is not very difficult. I mean, if you spend 5-7 minutes time to understand it, and maybe another 5-7 minutes time to attempt it. So you have a lot of time in the exam, not like you are running short of time. So data interpretation in ZAT is not that difficult. If you read it properly, if you try to understand what the graph is trying to tell you, then it is manageable, not very difficult. Very different
So,
from what you have seen in CAT exam.
and a lot of people say that there is a lot of calculation intensive. Yes, there are some question calculation, but not every question is also calculation intensive.
Not
And you're
every
kind of
question.
used to solving all kinds of crazy stuff in the CAT. So if you look at this question here, like what is saying that there are different colors, like what is going on here. But you read it is very important. The given candlestick chart depicts the prices of particular stock over 10 consecutive days. Nice. A candlestick comprises of a rectangular box pieced by a line. So there's a box and some line. Okay, great. The top and bottom ends of the line, respectively indicate the maximum and minimum prices of the stock on the day. Nice. This is the maximum price of the stock. This is the minimum price of the stock. While the horizontal edges of the rectangle, this particular edges of this rectangle correspond to the stock's opening and closing prices. This is opening price and this is closing price. If rectangle is wide, the opening price is lower than the closing price. Oh, sorry, if it's wide, so this will be opening, this is closing, and if it is black, this will be opening and this will be closing. That's it. Once, and these numbers are not very, and which of the following, so the maximum percentage increase in the stock price at a closing from opening. So yeah, so once you basically look at this table and do this, create another table, and I'm sure that you just convert into table, you can manage it. I've just taken one set. You keep looking at, not every set is going to be crackable, very easy, but given the fact that you have done this, your QA is it's important.
Sorted.
You have to get it right. So here, for all those of you who just chucked out, let's say I will not do numbers or I will leave out geometry, you might end up having some difficulty or challenges here. That's the only issue. Otherwise, you will sail through it.
Then at least practice data interpretation sets, because if you see
Yeah.
there are around minimum eight questions you are seeing, or six also.
Mm,
Assuming that even if they give eight questions and you can solve 5-6 there, and
mm.
3-4 of arithmetic and 1 or 2 here and there, you will be able to clear the cutoff.
Correct. When those of you are good in maths, this is where you can actually get out of the 28 question. You got 28 question, you can look at about 18ish out of this 28. That is very much possible. I've also heard sometimes in terms of the number of sheets that is given. I think this is something I've heard from students that in some centers they only give one sheet, one A4 sheet.
Yeah.
Did you hear something like that? In some places they give more sheet.
Once somebody told me, but then don't know whether it is applicable every
Absolutely.
year or what it is like.
Uh,
Yeah.
so basically, it's like they don't give a booklet. You'll get a paper, and I'm sure that you'll be able to get more and more papers available. But this is what I've heard. I'm not too sure. But personally, when I had taken the ZAT, I didn't have any problem. There were enough paper available. They gave extra sheet of paper also. So I don't know. Maybe at least from a ZAT point of view, you will not have. TCS only is conducting, or what was it? TCS only, no? Or
I think they have same center. TCS only conducts.
yeah. I think one year I think they went to SIFI and it was a sort of a bad story.
Master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like crazy, but okay. So that's sort of your story with respect to this. So again, go back and look at the kind of questions that is seen this at least these ones you should definitely look at it. Going past beyond this, but if question becomes very very difficult, then you sort of chuck those questions out. Just quickly about other two sections, just for completion's sake. So when you look at your GK, uh, static is like so when did India get independence type questions. Okay, so this will be like his geography, history, in some cases books and authors, if they're old books and authors. In so some little bit about politics or maybe economics, and these are current affairs, the news that is happening around, right? And usually it comes from all sort of questions. There is no negative marking. So but its value, how much of weightage that happens for it is later. But I don't know whether you should sweat too much about it. There is a compendium, XAT IFT compendium that is available in uh, in uh, in your CL aspiration zone, so you can download and watch this. I will also say that eventually I'm sure that you're going to get calls later on. I'm sure that through CAT or some exams, some calls, and generally current affairs would be something that you would anyway would want to be brushed up with, because that is kind of would be useful for your interview prep as well. So there is no harm in actually going and especially if looking at some of these current affairs. So if something like 2020 happens, I think like out of the usually out of the static one, you'll probably know about 40% of them, like 30-40%. This is probably if you're reading newspaper regularly, you'll be able to handle this. There's nothing extra to do. Anything you have to step prepare? I don't think so, right? Sit.
So,
Hmm?
I think if anybody can get 4 or 5 right out of the how many 25 questions are there,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
getting 4 or 5 right, that will be good enough. Should not see anyways any which way whatever we tell you that read this. Very few people are going to read GK in the coming days as far as the XAT exam is concerned. So if you have been reading newspaper regularly, I think attempting or getting 4 to 5 questions right will not be that difficult. So don't worry too much about this section because almost all these students this is the pain point, right? So nobody and anyways the first round there is no weightage for the GK ka score, and I'm sure that they don't have weightage in the second round also, else I would have struggled that time.
They have some weightage. उसको तो है. It's not going to be huge.
कुछ है.
So there
हाँ,
will be some
not huge
weightage.
में मतलब
Uh,
वो तो है मतलब. So that's why getting few questions right would be good enough.
yeah. And this second one they have essay. Now I can tell you this, right? That uh, I'm aware of the fact that that has got agencies which evaluate essays, right? This I'm sure of, because so they will evaluate the essay. The essay will be evaluated, and this will be this one. It's like every institute when you go to the second stage of your selection process, there is a VAT that you have to write, or the writing ability test. Most of the colleges are discarded your group discussion, even prior to COVID, right? Even prior to COVID, before COVID also, the IM, ABCL and all don't have group discussion. They converted that into that essay prior to COVID. So now also it's GD and all is less not likely not going to happen. And topic is given at that point in time, you have to write. And in there, some give you 15 minutes, some give you 30 minutes. IMA also gives a sort of a where the GMAT is an argument that is given, ask you specific question. Some are just will be sort of open-ended stuff to write, right? LMIMS gives a case study and you write on the case study, and as Symbiosis gives a picture also, and you have to create a story from the picture and stuff like that. But most of the IMs do get it. So essay writing is going to be a important part of it, and it's essay is about writing templates. Okay, it's about having a template, putting a nice argument. The best kind of essays are essays which is argumentative. You're taking a position on an issue and defending that particular position that you have. So when you defend the particular position, you should look at you should make your logical argument towards, right. It's more about reasoning. So what is your claim that you're making, what the evidence that you're stating, what could be, how will you support that evidence that you're claiming, right? So that's probably is. And if you look at the type of question that is asked, it's actually prompting you to answer that question in an persuasive essays, right? So when you look at your reading comprehension passages, you've got descriptive, factual, whatever, descriptive, you've got analytical, and you've got this argumentative, persuasive writing. What you're looking at is argumentation, logical argumentation, persuasion. Capitalism and democracy cannot coexist. You are, I think, given a choice last year. You can write on one topic. In management, we don't need people who have never experienced setbacks. So you can stand by it, you can go against it. Ethical, practical, and sustainability, do they coexist? Globalism and jingoism always coexist. Technology and nature are natural enemies. Listening is a dying art. We hardly listen to understand. We only listen to refute or reply. The most beautiful thing, we can neither be seen nor touched. I think that this is some very old. This is like abstract. Corruption is the root cause of economic slowdown in India. Government is not addressing the root cause of poverty. So most of these are. So you'll be able to write something on this. It's not like they're very difficult to write. You're only given 10 minutes. So basically, essay is about having template. So maybe on a sort of on a separate date, we'll have kind of this thing on how to write essays. Essay writing is about having like say pre-decided templates in terms of argumentation templates. So, any the thoughts, Siddharth, on essays and how can people?
Yeah,
Uh,
see, I'm sure that you will be taking a session on the essay in the future. So even if students are not able to attend that session, when you write essay for that, it is an important part. It will be evaluated for sure. And particularly before the interview, they will be having look at it, or whatever. I mean, marks will go as an input, whatever happens, but it plays definitely plays a part. So before you start writing in the exam, just have your thoughts in place. It's very necessary that when somebody reads your essay, you come out as a person who has built logic in a coherent fashion. And you can only do it before, I mean, before writing, you need to have clarity in your mind that what you are going to write. So if they have given you 15 minutes time, then maybe spend 4 to 5 minutes time structuring your thought and then writing the essay.
yeah. One of the things that I use is there is this Toolmin. All of you can Google Toolmin argumentation. Okay, uh, this gives a template in terms of how to create an argument. So idea is that, so for example, when you think about points, right, some stupid points only will come to my head. Okay, so for example, let's say, should alcohol be banned? Uh, the point that comes to my head will be like things like I drink, therefore you should not be banned. That is what is coming to my head at that point in time. Right? It is actually when you write that particular when you think you can't think about solid ideas that comes to head is a very simple whole thing. The whole thing that you have to do is how do I create that simple idea in my head and write a very compelling argument. This structure allows you. So basically the structure says, okay, so it's about personal choice, right? So you, let's say you are saying your argument is personal choice, therefore alcohol should not be banned, right? So this is one sentence. You are writing that one sentence. Now this paragraph can be expanded. Okay. Now when you look at any argument, you make a claim, and the claim is backed by evidence. Okay. Premise and conclusion. Now you are assuming something, right? What is the assumption that you're writing? You're writing assumption which is personal choice matters. That is my third sentence. This is called this is in the argument tool argumentation. This is called the warrant. Now what you have to do is you defend this. Give an example of this. Defend your warrant. So now suddenly you see that simple idea that I had becomes a coherent, cogent paragraph. You say, okay, uh, and then you can actually write stuff like uh, the, the 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 people who and then it also talks about, okay, what would be the uh, then you think about another thing that it says, what would be the possible counter to your claim, to your argument. You only think about the counter to your claim, right? What would be the counter? Play personal choice. Personal choice would mean that it also impacts others, right? You drink, it's going to create problem for your family or someone else. That could be your personal choice may harm others. That is your counter to the choice, and then you give a counter argument to that counter. You have a solid about 7 8 sentence on one this stupid idea. Then you start writing things like these, right? You write like, okay, while many would claim that alcohol has got a lot of negative values, banning alcohol is definitely not warranted, because consumption of alcohol is a personal choice. Personal choice matters. The Here the government is deciding what an individual should drink or should not drink. While you can make a case that in this case harm may be caused for others, that is true for any choice that you make in life. Every choice that you make, it has got some consequences, positive, negative, to someone else. But that is not to be used as a reason to compel citizens of a particular country not to consume a certain drink. There you go. There you go. One paragraph. So that sort of this one idea. So this is, you can Google this Toolman argumentation. I found it very useful in terms of how to write this. So you've got a claim, whatever claim you have, you've got sort of your this one. Then you see your warrant. Then you see this. You just have to write 3-4 times, and then once this gets there, and this will help you. This is sort of my way of dealing with this one. Toolman argumentation is something that you can actually Google and look at this. And if I were to take the lesson on essay, I will teach you this only. This is the amazing argumentation tool. So prep strategy. It's the last part. Number one, Siddharth, past papers, right?
Past papers, yeah.
I think not as mock. I think that people want to take past papers and mock. You do take it as a mock, but that is okay. But mock, you take it once and you leave it. You have to look at. I think that every question must be visited in throughout the preparation at least twice or thrice, because you want to learn from each question. For VALR, definitely you look at 2015 to 2022. When you go previous years, I think if you look at 2011 paper, there are some crazy sort of questions. If there is inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, which is this, which is that. You might get in the early sort of papers, you might get certain type of questions, which is very crazy ones. So you can ignore, but definitely reading comprehension. You look at across the board, right? Across the board, definitely critical reasoning across the board, definitely filling the blanks question across the board, definitely grammar based question across the board, but definitely all the questions starting with 2015, 2022. When in DM 2008 to 2022, and in the previous paper prior to, let's say, ignore the analytical reasoning ones, just focus on the decision making questions. So start. I think it is good to start from the earlier ones, because when I think 2008 paper is available with you, it should be there in the aspiration zone. It's there. So look at those questions on the old ones, and then build on to 2018. Quant and DI, definitely this one. When you go back and look at the old one, ignore which is very crazy ones, right? But this is something that you want to build, right? Especially data interpretation is something you want to look at. I think data interpretation, keep looking across the board. Use individual questions to learn, and also look at what kind of topics you would want to revise. So let your XAT paper tell you, the past XAT paper tell you what is that you want to do. That is sort of my sort of first thing. Second, of course, take XAT mock test plus sectional test. I'm sure it is available to you. And anyone interested in picking up the course, you can check this course out, which is decision making course. This is a special course created by me and GP. It has got pre-recorded lessons on decision making. It has got some 4 live sessions. It has got some practice questions. It's got 4 sectional tests. That's course. Not necessary that you should pick this course. I'm not trying to sell this blatantly. If you feel the need for the course for DM1000, then you can pick this course. Okay. Otherwise, I think this should sort of suffice. Anyone need extra help? Would you say that is there any apart from, given the fact that Siddharth, they have prepared for the test, they prepared for CAT. Is there anything extra that they will have to do extra in terms of actually join or get into things? Is it needed really?
No, I mean, it depends upon individual. If somebody is not feeling very comfortable with DM, or you need some sort of guidance, then maybe you can look at it. But solving previous year question paper is the basic hygiene thing for this prep strategy. And then depending upon where you feel you want the guidance, you can think about it.
Correct. So you utilize this, like I told you, decision making. Think about the process, identify the criteria, and this will be fine. So your plan of action should be that take the ZAT mock test on a regular basis, right? Don't wait till the end and take everything. Once this Sunday gets done, we have got what a good 2 to 3 weeks. What is probably going to happen is that is going to be on the January there. Around that time, your CAT results going to come out, actual results. Now, quickly recover, right? Recover from there. Don't go. You probably will be expecting something already, right? So, but you to please recover uh, from here and do to focus on this. That ensure that you do well in the test. These are tests that actually can definitely help you. There you go. That
Jiju, there is one question.
uh,
The negative marks for unattempted questions are reduced from overall score or equally distributed over the three sections.
it is they have, I don't know exactly what they do, but my understanding is that it gets distributed across those three uh,
Okay.
sections because you can't remove everything. They have a cutoff, no, so it's not equally distributed. Also, depending upon how many questions that you left out, I think that it gets that weightage assigned accordingly. That's how they do.
Pro rata kind of thing.
Yeah.
So how many? So for example, if somebody has left 10 questions, three from English, three from DM, and four from quant. So uh, I mean, accordingly, they will reduce the marks in the three sections.
Okay. So GD happens,
That
XLR,
is
right?
our guess, but that is our guess. We don't know for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that is the
And
logical thing to do.
I think from whatever we have seen in terms of the scoring towards the end, and whenever we have taken the paper, so that seems to be the case. So GD happens, XLRA, right? Yes, yes. XLRA, I think was crazy. I remember in 1 year they had GD, they had a form that you had to fill. They asked people to record something themselves and upload it.
Yeah.
And then 1 year, no form, nothing. Come to the interview, no GD, nothing. Come and but usually you have GDs. Okay, what else? Let me pick. Coaching has become a business. That is why I never care about the weaker student. If coaching is the business, it will care about the weaker student. What logic is this? The good students don't give money, right? Anyways, so what kind of question is this? Why am I even looking at the question? Difficult level of the grammar. I think we have somebody is blocked
Yeah.
for 5 minutes. Okay. So is exam be worth
So,
applying to if someone is already CTC 50 lakh per annum? Yeah, say that you apply. I think that thinking is a waste of time at this point in time. Whatever is the school that you want to apply, you apply and keep. At least at the end of this process, we have to go through some college. We have definitely need to get some calls. You have to tell, I think at least give this dialogue to your parents. My beta na, he actually got into this college na, but he didn't pick it up. Give some dialogues to people, to yourself. Please apply. What else? Sir, can we switch among
uh,
sections while attempting that? Yes, of course, you can. How many ZAT mocks should we take before D Day? Siddharth,
four to five, four
four
to
to five.
five,
Yeah,
good
four
enough.
to five. I've applied for both BM and HRM. Both will be treated separately in terms of calls, interview, and stuff. Yes, the HR interview is different. The PM interview is different. So you can choose when you're taking HRM interview, when you're taking PM interview. These are conducted separately. They have GD separately conducted for it during the HR interview. So this is the one. Okay, sir, how frequently should we take ZATMOC? Weekly once. I don't know what your name is. I'm going to call you Love because that's what I can see your name in the box. Okay. Thanks, Jijo, for great session. Thanks, Jijo. Thanks, Sid. Thanks, Rahul. So, what are for these out of the world? What out of the world? Bad grammar vocabulary getting only VLR. Dis, out of the world bad grammar getting only VLR despite being a VRC 1000 students. First of all, VRC 1000 is basically a course designed for the cat. So in the course, I've not given too much importance to grammar and vocabulary. So getting only things 16 VLR will be bad. So what you'll have to do is that you said despite being a VRC 1000 student, मेरा इज्जत का सवाल है. So what you'll have to do is please go back and redo the question once again. Right? It is fine at this point in time. You're obviously making some mistake. Go through each questions once again, right? Understand where you're going wrong and pick up the learning and move on. That's very important. So just you get a score, you got a score, right? I don't know which year was it. I think 16 VL. I don't know which year you took. So 2026 will be amazing. Right? Baki year will be bad. Okay. So any difference in percentiles of XLRA, Jamshedpur, XLRA, Delhi? Siddharth?
Just
I,
no idea. I mean, I think they have to apply differently.
well, I don't think. I think they have not explicitly mentioned at least. I believe that they have sort of a common sort of process. That's what
Yeah,
I
they have
think.
their because I have applied and they have not asked me in the form. So I have applied there. Uh, maybe they
Uh,
will give common calls then because they have
so
not
so
asked specifically any preference or something.
so the number of seats I believe is about 72, right? 70 to 80, na? Delhi ka, if I
Yeah.
remember.
Uh,
And the XLR other seat is about close to about 450, 460, right? So the top,
hmm.
so it's I think the percentile will be more or less very very similar. That's what I would say. Uh, Sir, what order should we follow while attempting? Should I start with DM? That being tough. Up to you, I think, Imang. Any order that you recommend, Siddharth? I think that any order is fine. Whatever is comfortable to you.
Any order, because you have plenty of time, so you don't have to make a lot of strategy here.
Yeah. Anyway, I think ordering doesn't matter, no. So typically, essentially, start with the things that you think that you can manage first. That's what I will normally recommend. So you can finish it off it quickly, and then you get a little time. Up to you. Is there any sort of preparation for essay writing? There is only 10 minutes, sir. So is there any minimum marks, minimum maximum limit of the word numbers and stuff? So far, they have not told what is the minimum. Whatever you can write in 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes you probably will be able to get about 300 words in. I think, right? 10 minutes actually is a lot of time, right? So the key when it comes to essay is you must have a pre-decided. The template should be decided. So once you have sort of a template in place or a structure in place, right? So you don't have to then worry about what is the structure. I'm looking at. So you need to have a process. So you can plan it. So if I am given 10 minutes, I'm thinking I'm planning this say for about 5 minutes, and I'll write for 5 minutes. 2018, 2020, both 16 VLR. The 2020 छोड़ दो 2022 करना, right? Topic wise quant weight is that. No, what is it? We did that. Topic wise, you're getting into topic, okay, specific topic wise. Okay, so that we have not done. So it's the usual one only. You get all those usual questions. You can actually have a look at the XAT 2022 2021 paper and get that. Okay, anything else? Anything else that we missed?
I think we have covered all the questions.
I will be in IIM Ahmedabad next year. Yes, wonderful. I think I'll hope, I
Great.
pray that too. Sir, I'm scoring 35 in CL mocks. What can I expect in tomorrow's snap? 35 in snap is good score, right? Yeah, it's a good score. Yeah. Okay, I think this was another question. What is the question here? I can.
What is the weightage of XAT score in final shortlist? We
Uh,
don't know. We think that it can be around 50%, but nobody knows for
yeah.
sure the absolute exact weightage.
Can we invest more time on essay and flunk on GK? Zero GK. मतलब तो ये की क्या है? एग्जाम में जाके देखना. If you don't know, you don't know. I mean, you can, of course, right? But I'm sure that you'll know some stuff. There is no negative marking also, so you can make a best guess everywhere. I don't think that if you get a zero in GK, you'll not make it to ऐसा कुछ नहीं है ना. They're not saying it is necessary in that sense. Okay. So we had a good session. I hope that this session was useful, beneficial. Thank you. I enrolled for PT Personal. Is there anything I can do to get one among Jijo sir or GP sir? You ask them, no, you want Jijo or GP. Probably you'll probably get that now. Later on, will be a problem. You can just ask them. Okay. So I think that we covered
Yeah,
everything
almost
that we could.
everything we have covered. Yeah, yeah.
I think this should be a
Right.
most comprehensive session ever on that.
Yeah.
Chalo guys, bye.
Bye. Bye.
Should we use Tuka strategy in that? No, don't use. You'll have a lot of time. You'll have no problem. Chalo, bye guys.